Hi everyone, this is Rohit from Lifestyle Mastery, and today I'm excited to have Leo Catalan, who's the CEO of corporate ventures at DavidShield, Passport Card Group. He attended the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Welcome, Mr. Leo.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. Thanks, Rohit.
Awesome. So you have quite a interesting journey, in especially in the travel insurance sector. But how do you get your start in the tech world and especially in the passport card group?
Well, I think like many other people, it's all about good friends. So the at a certain, I used to work for management and on management consulting a while back for Deloitte, and one of my clients and very, very good friend, a gentleman named Alon Ketzev, at a certain point came to me and said, listen, I have this bold idea. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with it, but I know who I'm going to do it with. And
Mm,
the rest is history. And from that point onwards, it was really, about how do we take this very, very thin grain of idea
yeah.
and making into a bold business that we've built since.
Mm. Interesting. And you mentioned about management consulting. So I come from India, and then in the Middle East, what is in the last 10 years is some of the best operators have come from BCG and McKinsey, Bain, and Deloitte of the world. But here in the Europe, you have a lot of hedge fund guys and those sort of people who become like consulting that makes. I've seen that. I've reported to few manager consultants when I was at OU rooms.
Yeah, look, it's interesting. I think it's sort of this runway that it's almost set for you, right? It's the easiest path to take.
Yeah.
You go to consulting, and it's going to open many doors. It's kind of this thing that people do. But I think you have those people who the the grain of entrepreneurship is embedded to them. It's their DNA, and they just can't avoid it. So at a certain point, you got to jump ship and start building stuff. Um, I think that management consulting, don't get me wrong, I think it's a great start for a career because it does expose you to so many industries. It's a fast track of knowledge, of processes, of connections and relationships. So it's a fantastic start. But if you're all about building stuff, don't hesitate. This is where you should be.
Got it. Interesting. And when you're in B school, you always taught about Warren Buffett, and I think when it comes to Warren, insurance has been, especially in the early years, he really made a lot of money on insurance, and he really likes the insurance industry. But how did David Shield differentiate itself in the insurance industry, and what were some of the unique offerings they had that they were able to carve the niche?
It's funny. Yes, we're in the insurance space, but we came into the insurance space because we feel it's wrong, because we feel it's broken.
Yeah.
And we feel that unfortunately, many insurers had forgotten what insurance is all about. Pardon me for being romantic for a second, but people forget where insurance started. Insurance started in the coal mines of England, where you had a community around the coal mine, and every morning the miners would go into the mine, and
Mm,
every person going into the mine would put one pence in this kitty box.
mm,
And this kitty box, at the end of the day, when people went out of the mine, sometimes one person, at times two, did not come out because it
mm,
was a huge peril to work in these mines. And this money would go to their family, to the spouse and the family. And this was, the cornerstone of insurance as we know it. And insurance is all about security and safety, and a safety net. And unfortunately, with time going, it had become this financial arrangement. So insurers, they're kind of passive. They're telling you, okay, you went into trouble. Oh, we're sorry for you. You pay out, go through the ordeal. At the end of the day, send us the bills, and then we'll consider it, and we'll see how much we're going to pay.
Yeah.
And we didn't feel that that was the right way of doing insurance. And let's face it, there is an inherent conflict between an insurer and their role, because paying claims means you have less profits, but you're all about paying claims. That's what you're there for. So how do you solve that conflict? And this is where we went into insurance, and we said, okay, we want to put the member. We want them to drive the bus. We don't want them to be in the back seat. We want them to control their fate. And what we did, we put our money where our mouth is. We developed this technology that allows us to process claims in real time, actually in advance. So before the insurance event had happened, we provide each of our members with a debit card where they pay for the claim, a debit card connected to our bank account, and they pay with that debit card for the claim at the service provider in real time. So essentially, they don't pay, they're not out of pocket anytime, at any point. And we put our money where our mouth is. And this whole arrangement had created a new level of trust between us and our customers, and it brought us huge success. Now, obviously, the technology behind it is a big ordeal, but the impact on the user experience makes the difference.
Got it. And what happened during COVID was it did impact the insurance industry. So how did your company adapt to those changes, and what's been the last growth for the last 4 years?
It's a fantastic question. Look, we first of all, within our business, we have different models. So naturally, when you talk cross-border, so that section of the business, cross-border during COVID, not the best business to be in. But we're a very resilient executive team and founding team, and we believe in what we do. And we started looking at other outlets where our business can actually, and our capabilities can actually perform in this new situation, which, to remind us all and our listeners, coming to March of 2020, it looked like the end of the world, right? We didn't know if this is going to be the new normal or it's ever going to be over. And what we found within the ashes of COVID is a new phenomena starting to come up of remote work and digital nomads. And we've decided to turn all of our efforts to that. And within less than 6 months, we've created a whole new business with technology, with new insurance plans, with everything that would cater to that population. And this was a huge triumph for us as a business.
Interesting. And interestingly, you mentioned about remote, because I think in the last couple of years, people have started going back to office, but it's like 2 or 3 days in a week. This is especially true for Europe and UK. But how do you see the from home or versus going to the office? Do you think it's a permanent thing, or people will go back to office?
Look, it's an interesting question. I think my belief is that us as people, we need the human touch. It's super important, and when it counts, you want to see a person face to face. It's just there, and I think that as things evolve and businesses grow, the main challenge with remote work still remains, onboarding new employees, training them, getting the DNA across. And I think that as time will pass, we will see more and more people returning to work from office. It might not go all the way back to 5 full days at the office, but I think it'll be I don't think it'll I don't think we're yet at the status quo or at the steady state.
Got it. And how do you see the the landscape for insurance evolve in the next 5 to 10 years? Any new opportunities that you foresee? Um,
Wow. Look, I think one cannot talk enough about AI and what that creates Gen AI,
yeah,
and I think this is definitely will have a huge impact on the insurance industry specifically, on every angle of that industry. Not only because of the merits of the technology itself, but rather the pace that it would impact insurance companies. Many insurance companies had the benefit of being relatively slow to adapt to new technologies.
yeah,
I don't think that'll happen here. I think that, and from people I talk to, everyone understands it's either we're going to be there or we won't be at all.
yeah.
So certainly, how you interact with your customers, how you provide them service, how you sell to them, how you underwrite your business, all of these areas are going to be transformally different from what we know.
Hmm. Got it. And you look at corporate ventures. So how does that fit into the overall strategy for DavidShield uh, and what are your goals for this division?
Yeah. So look, we got to the way we work with corporate ventures um, from the understanding that scaling and growing in the insurance industry, where you have territorial regulation, which is very prohibiting and restrictive. We had to find a way to work around that and grow our business both vertically and horizontally. So, both globally and within each market, how do we create more and more value to our customers? And it took us some time to devise the approach, but essentially, the way we run it, we have these. My group has maybe three arms to it. The first and the predominant one is what we call the ventures incubator, where we run multiple new ventures simultaneously from essentially every stage of the ways, from ideation to research and product design and launching, obviously, and then scaling it. And for every new such venture, we create a team, a local founding team, a specific founding team for that specific venture. I work with them. My team works with them to grow that venture and up to a point where, very much like a baby, it's able to walk by itself. And at that point, we start fading out. Once we see it's well based, the business model is there. There is product market fit, and we can see how this is gaining traction in the respective market. And next to that, we have numerous design partnerships with startups that we do on a continuous basis, and adopting new technologies, helping ourselves to grow and really keep up with technology development. And lastly, which is that vertical growth. Every product in our portfolio, every new technology that we create, we make sure that we're able to clone it to additional markets, and this is yet another stage of the way. So cloning those capabilities, these products to additional markets around the world, and growing with that.
Right. And we talked about how so is the best way to acquire and build businesses, or is it more about launching new products, or going deep in one market or one product?
Look, it's all of the above, right?
Right.
So you have um, we're constantly scouting the market for acquisition opportunities. We're constantly scouting the market for new technologies, new startups where we feel it might be compelling for us to work with them and embed them within our portfolio of products. And it's a lot about really building things. And look, we have well over 2.5 million customers at this point in time. So the amount of feedback that we're getting from these customers is immense, and we're very good listeners. And to be honest, the best ideas as to where to go next come from our customers. So
Nice.
it's all about, developing your listening skills.
Got it. Interesting. And how do M&A teams, get to know startups that they would like to invest in or acquire them? How do you interact with venture ecosystems when you're looking to, make those sort of acquisitions?
I think that when we look at investment opportunities, we would first and foremost, and I know this is a cliche, but first and foremost, look at the team. I think this is key to see that there is someone who you feel is able to deliver,
Right.
especially when you're looking at early stage startups. And except for that, you need to see that there is real wisdom in the business model, because fantastic technology, you can get it's endless. You can get it everywhere. It had become super easy to get, but technology that actually works and has a business model that you can see how that works and how that creates value that people are willing to pay for, this is hard to come by. One example which I've been talking about quite a bit in previous years was blockchain.
Yeah.
Fantastic technology, but I think that up to this point, except for crypto, no one had really figured out what to do with it.
True.
And especially, in our space, in the insurance space, in the fintech space, there were so many different brands playing out with the idea, trying to incorporate it into their business models. But essentially, if you're looking at a bank and you're comfortable putting your bank at that your money at that bank, do you really need blockchain in order to create that added trust? I think it's sort of the opposite way of looking at things. So definitely, you need a business model just as good as the technology itself.
Got it. And when you look at a successful integration and what goes wrong with an integration post M&A.
First and foremost, it's people.
Yeah.
You need to have the right chemistry in place. You need to have the right DNA in place. And we always, us entrepreneurs, always like to talk about product market fit. So it's not only product market fit, it's also team to team fit, especially when you're talking integration. And the more valuable or key inherent the product is to your business model, the more important it is that your partners will be ones that you can talk with and they understand your motivations and can adhere to them. And then, we're all, I think, running so quickly these days, launching new stuff and constantly, businesses are constantly evolving. And therefore, if you look at the integrating a product, which is any integration that would take more than several months is bound to fail, because by the time you'll get to the end of it, your complete business landscape had changed.
Yeah.
And this is becoming difficult. And, I can see it with good friends and partners that we work with, which have these huge products that can do so many things, but then integrating them is that complicated that the projects are just becoming endless and prone to failure, unfortunately.
Right. And do you have like a checklist or set of questions that you that can be asked when you're looking at finding the right culture fit for the teams who get integrated into your company?
The first question that I ask is what their motivation is. Where do they see themselves in 5 years' time?
Mm,
The second question that I ask is what is the core impact they feel they bring to the end customer, not to me, not to the B2B that they're trying to market to, but rather to the end customer. Because when I see an entrepreneur that cannot do that leap of faith, cannot see all the way down to the end customer, that's where it ends for me. Well, it's going to be a very nice meeting. We're going to end it as friends, but business will not come out of it.
mm.
Because for an entrepreneur, they have to understand the value that they create. And the value is not on the B2B basis. It's never on the B2B basis. It's always on the B2C. So you have to see the entire length in order to really succeed.
Correct. And what does the acquisition deal making process look like at the company? Is it you making all the decisions, or you have a team who gets to make consistent
No, no.
decisions?
So there is a team, and it all depends on the size and how that acquisition might look like. It doesn't necessarily have to be an acquisition. It also might be a design partnership or something along those lines. But essentially, there is always a team. We have sort of a small executive board that will always consider different opportunities and will decide how to pursue them. And especially if it's something that is specific, a product that is specific for a certain market, then we'd also talk to local leadership of that market to see that we're all talking, on the same thing and we're all on the same page. So it's a quick, but definitely, there is an onboarding process internally that we go through.
Okay, okay, got it. And does speed really matter when it comes to M&A process? Do you always make sure that in versus other companies, is speed something really important to win the best transactions?
Yes, yeah, for a very simple reason. I don't want to be in the time wasting business, neither for myself nor for the target, by the way. If it's something that I have, a strong enough hunch that will not follows through, I don't want to waste the other person's time. They've got, especially when it's a startup and every day counts.
Yeah.
It's better for me to tell them, listen, guys, you're a great bunch of people, but it's not going to happen. And we try to be very direct with how we our general approach to business, but also how we interact with our partners, and we feel that's the appropriate way of doing it. And we expect the same when we're on the other side.
Mm. And you made an interesting point about blockchain. That it's a great technology, but especially in the insurance industry, it hasn't really been used or applied. But when it comes to AI, how do you think AI will change, or has it started? Have you guys started using AI to get the deals or to grow your business?
Yeah, so when we're talking AI, we need to understand that first of all, AI had gone through many iterations and generations, right?
Yeah.
So we've been doing AI for many years, and Gen AI, which is the current sort of iteration of it with large language models, is really a fast tracking of everything we know. And we have several product experiments in the pipeline that we're working on, both for internal use, which is important. Just imagine having global products of insurance, all of them, one more complicated than the other, serving I haven't counted for quite a while, but thousands of different companies and different insurance plans. Just remembering and knowing all of that information is a huge task by its own, and definitely having an LLM model embedded to our knowledge base is a huge leap as to how we can manage our internal processes. But that's only the start, because as I alluded to earlier, I think that the main area where we will see this coming to play is how we serve our customers. And eventually, I don't. I think it's likely that we as consumers will find ourselves in, I don't know, 5 years time, maybe, consuming everything through some sort of chat interface.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, by the way, text, it might be voice. And at that point, you need to think, how am I, as an insurer, as a fintech player, how do I still serve my customers to the best of my ability? Not only that, how do I differentiate myself from the other guy? Because all of a sudden, how the brands look is very different. It's not necessarily about graphics. It's about how do you differentiate yourself in actual value. And this is what we're thinking. And as I said, we have different experiments in the pipeline. So stay tuned. It's going to be interesting.
Interesting. And, a couple of months back, there was a case study about how Klarna had used customer success agents, and instead of 700 people, they use bots to interact, and they saved $30 million. But there was a lot of discussion on the internet where, they said, like, people lose their jobs, and, especially when it comes to insurance and all that, you have a lot of customer success agents, or, you need that sort of interaction. How far do you think we are from a place where you'll have AI bots or AI agents interacting with the customers, and where do you see the jobs for customer facing roles?
So I might surprise you here,
Right.
but I think this is exactly where I think differentiation will kick in. Because eventually bots, and not necessarily the Klarna bot, which was the old way of doing bots, which was mostly rule-based and stuff, which is fine. It works. But LLM-based bots is definitely something, it's just around the corner. It's actually here.
Right.
And I think that if it weren't for maybe more hallucinations than we wanted to, it would probably have been in a wider use at this point. But it'll get there. It's, we're 6 months, maybe 12 months away. But then, if you as an insurer want to differentiate yourself, if everyone would give their service on a bot, where is the difference? And I think this is exactly where, going all the way back to the beginning of our conversation and where we started our insurance journey and why we went into insurance.
Yeah.
How do you touch the customer? How do you find the way to provide them with the safety net? Not only paying the claim, but being there at the time of need. And for that, you still need humans.
Right.
So I definitely see how, a single customer engagement, where today it's, we're measuring it by seconds in order to be efficient, how we're going to be measuring it by the value it's going to bring. So I don't care if it's going to be a bit longer, as long as I know that the customer satisfaction is such that that customer will not even consider a different brand.
Interesting. And especially, when you're looking to acquire companies, and you have founders, who stick on to the initial vision versus when they want to pivot. So what advice you would give to them when they should look at pivoting, and when should they look at sticking on to the initial vision?
Look, I think vision is half romance, half business.
Right.
The romance should be there, because the romance is what you actually want to create. The business part is what you pivot around, because then you have to see, how do you bring the value that you set out to bring? How do you bring that to real life? How do you actually have that meet customers. And when you see that you can't find customers who fall in love with what you do, who actually become your strongest advocates, if you don't have such customers, then this is a point you should start looking at. How do I create more value?
Hmm.
Because this is not enough.
Got it. Got it. Interesting. And do you think the best CEOs are a best resource and capital allocators?
It depends on the stage of the business. Look, businesses are an evolving animal.
Right.
At the beginning, you need the visionaries,
Right.
and you need and you need the builders, and you need the problem solvers, because it's all about improvising and connecting things that have never been connected before. And yeah, it's puzzle work. At a later stage, it becomes about resource allocation, management, making sure that things are well sorted. But still, that vision has to stay there, because that's your, polar star. This is what you're constantly aiming towards. This is what the horse that's pulling the wagon, if you wish. So we this is exactly what I do, right, under corporate ventures. It's really see that evolution. And the reason we built it that way is because my team, my group of people are experts in that initial puzzle solving stage. But we know, and we're fine with that comes that point where you need the executor to get that business to the next stage. And this is exactly how we run things.
Correct. And, especially when it comes to large companies, there could be, a lot of complex decisions happening. How do you communicate with large teams at scale, so that, everybody in the department is on the same page?
You make them fall in love.
But okay.
It's look, my constant question, and sort of whenever we run into a discussion internally between teams, I always go back to the consumer, and I always try to put everyone in the room, whether it is physical or virtual room, um, to put them in the shoes of a consumer, putting them and telling them, what would you expect if you were the consumer who's asking for this service or trying to buy it or whatever? Because unless you have that mindset, it's very difficult, because everyone has their interests and their comfort zones, but once you view things from the consumer's point of view, everything clears up.
Hmm. And in such a large corporation, how do you approach decision making? What's your framework for decision making, and what's your daily routine like?
So I touched on it earlier. I think it's really about where every decision makes an impact. So if it's on the local, since we're a global local group, so if the impact is on a local um, level, say in our Australian business, then I will talk to the Australian team and make sure that we're aligned with the interests and the vision and the intentions. If it's something which is group wide, then I would consult with the sort of management board team to see if the path that we're taking is the right path. But once again, speaking of not wasting people's time, when I bring it to the table, I make sure that I'm confident enough that this is something worthwhile talking about, and that it's mature enough, the thinking is mature enough, the idea is mature enough, the economics are mature enough to put it on the table and then make a decision. And it makes the whole decision-making process that much quicker.
Hmm. Correct. And how do you look at delegation? How do you get to decide, what to delegate and what not to delegate?
I try to delegate as much as possible,
Right.
both because it's a multiplication of power,
Right.
but also it's the best way to build great people and great professionals. There is one condition though, and the
Mm.
condition is that you have to have people around you which are smarter than yourself.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll be challenging them instead of the other way around.
Correct. Correct. Interesting. And I've been very impressed with the Israeli startup ecosystem. It's not a big country, but the density of startups and the quality of operators and startups is quite impressive. How do you think, why do you think, Israel has been able to deliver so many great startups in the last, you know, uh, 10, 20 years, not only in one industry, but across?
Look, Israel, as you said, is a very, very small country, sitting in the middle of the Middle East, in the desert, essentially.
Yeah.
No natural resources whatsoever, and have, for various reasons, had to think and operate as a sort of island,
Yeah.
self-sustaining. And this had created, necessity is the mother of all invention, right? So this had created a culture of problem solvers because we had to find a way of building a country from nothing, with no resources to find around us. And this DNA, this culture is very much still there. Israel being a super developed country at this point, the DNA is still very much there. And as a culture, we are, I would say, nonconformists. So
Mm.
we don't take anything for granted. If the one sentence, one saying that I would never accept is a person telling me, "Yeah, but this is the way it's done."
Yeah.
No, there is no such thing. So we're always, as a culture, and specifically us as a business as well, as an example of that. We're always challenging ourselves. We're always challenging any assumption, and if we're not convinced, it means that there is a better solution.
Interesting. And here in the UK, I've seen I would say around 90% of the startups are here in London. That's how you have the startup ecosystem. Is it true for Israel as well, where you have most of the startups in Tel Aviv?
Yes, I think that the largest ecosystem is Tel Aviv, but let's not forget Israel is roughly the size of London.
Yeah.
It's a 10 million people country, very, very small. You do see some other, for specific industries or specific spaces within the tech industry, you do see some excellent centers outside of Tel Aviv, mostly cyber down south, food tech up north, and the chip industry, which is huge here and around the Haifa metropolitan area. So you do have some scatters, but still predominantly Tel Aviv is the heavy lift.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Interesting. Leor, I quickly want to do the top three. What's your favorite business book, or if you have multiple books?
So yeah, it's as I told you earlier, it's a tough one because I have so many favorites. But coming to think about it through our call, I would name Zero to One by Peter Thiel,
Yeah.
which I think is a fantastic way of scale up. How do you do that? What are the challenges? What are the mindset? Where you as a leader have to place yourself? Fantastic book.
Got it. We'll put down in show notes. And if you could go back in time when you started with DavidShield, what is the one thing you would have focused on or done thing differently?
I think that if going back in time, be bolder. I would have been bolder than we were. Um, it's easy in hindsight, right? Once you've
Yeah.
succeeded. But I think that even for failures, today we're at a stage that we are bold in our decision making, and we are willing to fail. And it's the best triumphs come from failure
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
then you know what to do and what not to do
Yeah. Yeah.
for the next time around.
Interesting. Nice. And what's your favorite online tool, for example, Gmail, Slack, Zoom?
Look, I think, Zoom, Teams, the rest of the gang, they've done a magnificent job in making this available. But the one tool which I feel from a business perspective, we constantly work and interact through is LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I think they've done a tremendous job in the last few years, really becoming an essential day-to-day tool for businesses.
Awesome. We'll put that in the show notes. And Leor, what is the best way people can reach out to you and know more about the Passport Card Group?
So speaking of LinkedIn, just look up Leor Catalan at PassportCard. You'll find your way.
Awesome. We'll put taking on time and speaking to us. I really enjoyed my conversation with you.
Same here. Huge pleasure. Thanks very much.